The greatest commandment, Jesus says, is to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind. And the question that often comes to mind probably when we hear that is, how can we love God whom we can't see? And how can we be commanded to love? Isn't love something that should rise up in our hearts? The story of the girl who was afraid of the thunderstorm, and the mother said, God is with you all the time. And she said, I know, but sometimes I need a God with skin on. She wanted a hug from her mother to comfort her. And that is who Jesus is, a God with skin on. He became flesh. The Word became flesh. Bruce Marciano was an actor who starred in the movie The Gospel of Matthew. They decided to film the entire gospel and not add any words to it, but just take the text as it came in the gospel. And they asked him to portray the figure of Jesus in this movie. And he said, in this time that I have to get ready, he had about 9 months to get ready, I need to really prepare so I can portray Jesus properly. I want to show how Jesus really was when he was here on earth. And so he began to pray. He spent 3 hours a day in prayer, asking Jesus to show him what it was like to be here on earth so that he could show it properly in the movie. And he said the thing that came to him was an overwhelming sense of joy and of love. The joy of Jesus to be here on earth with his people whom he loves. And that's what he tried to portray in the movie then. God takes delight in his people. St. John sums it up in one word: God is love. In order to love God, we have to first know how much he loves us. That's what St. John says. Love consists in this, not so much that we have loved God, but that he first loved us. Do you think that you are a joy for Jesus? It is true. Jesus says the words to you of the Father that said to him, "You are my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." Or, "You are my beloved daughter, with whom I am well pleased." When I had to meditate on those words when I was on retreat, it was hard to think of the fact that Jesus or God could be well pleased with me, but yet it's true. And the same is true for you. The Lord is well pleased with you. Have I allowed Jesus to get close to me? So in this case, love is not a feeling. We might say, I don't feel love for God, or I tell Jesus that I love him, but I don't feel it. In this case, love is a preferring, a choice in the heart that we make, where we abandon ourselves to God. And Jesus says, be not afraid. Sometimes we think, if I go to Jesus, what will he ask of me? I wouldn't want to hurt him. It would be risking too much to give myself completely to Jesus. But it is this fear that actually wounds him. Sometimes we are overcome with discouragement. We have made many resolutions, but then we say, I always fall again. It's impossible that he does not get tired of it. Or when we see ourselves so weak, always falling into the same sins, we are tempted to say, Jesus must be growing weary of me. But this is a kind of blasphemy to say this, because it is putting a limit on a mercy that has no limit. It is to doubt the patience, the clemency, the indulgence of Jesus with us. It is not he who grows weary of us. It is we who grow weary of looking at our spiritual weaknesses. In the story of the prodigal son, the son came home after spending all his father's inheritance. And the father was watching for him and ran out to meet him and embraced him and welcomed him back with joy and forgave him. Now, what if this prodigal son had decided to go off again and take his father's inheritance again and spend it all foolishly? The father would respond the same way the second time and run out and embrace him and meet him. And not the second time, but hundreds of times, because God never changes. It is always the same, his love for us and forgiveness. The older son in that story viewed his father as a taskmaster. Not once did I disobey your orders, he said. He kind of thought of it as, what's the least I have to do to make my father happy? In a marriage, how would that go over if you said that to your husband or wife? What's the least I have to do to keep you happy? The Lord desires to please the beloved, and so in our love for God, we desire to please the Lord. And so we have the second part, love your neighbor as yourself. It means we have to be able to love ourselves if we're going to love our neighbor. St. John says, how can you say you love God whom you haven't seen when you don't love your brother whom you have seen? Our love for others reveals our love for God. As Jesus says, whatever you did to the least of these, you did it to me. Let's pray with St. Teresa, the little flower. I believe in your love, Lord. Even in all the evidence that might point to the contrary, I continue to hold on to this belief of your love for me, Lord. And our prayer, Father, reveal your love for me, your beloved son or daughter.